Welcome to Empowered Life Hacks, where we share with you an explosion of tips to help you overcome your daily struggles. Pay attention for the audio and visual cues, and this will let you know when an actionable idea is right on its way.
Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well today. I have my friend Jessica here. Jessica, if you just want to wave at everybody and let them know you're a real person. Thanks so much for joining us today. Yeah, welcome to Empowered Life Hacks. As you know, our goal is to grab people's journey and give you the digestible components of their journey that can really make the biggest impact of your life. You may not have the time to join a seminar or the money to join a 6-week course or even time to really change your mindset through some meditation retreat. But our goal is we can give you tips that you can really try that are simple, that you can apply to your life tomorrow and get some maybe decent results. And I was speaking with Jessica. We met over LinkedIn, organically part of this like health and wellness network. And we started hitting it off, and she started talking about reading and how she kind of breaks down books. And after that, before I even thought of this idea for Empowered Life Hacks with a group of friends, I thought that was such a brilliant idea. And I read books, I don't know about you, but I don't often remember everything or have a system for digesting the important components. So, Jessica, would you like to maybe introduce yourself quickly and then we can get into your experiences with reading?
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for having me on this podcast today. It's definitely a surreal experience, talking about the joyous process of reading and how I've kind of gone through it. Actually, when growing up, I was not a reader at all. I hated books. I hated everything related to reading. Just because in school, in elementary school, they said I was several years behind in my reading level. So just like with teachers and everything like that, they discouraged me for really even feeling like I wanted to read, because they're like, oh, you need special help for reading, and you may have to be held back. And I was like, well, okay, I don't want to read now just because you're telling me all this stuff. And so I really didn't read too much. I would read, if anything, more on a fiction base. And just kind of, getting yourself away from the mundane portions of life and kind of putting yourself in like a fantasy land, sort of speaking, and through like Harry Potter or like Series of Unfortunate Events or anything like that. But as I started to get older, and actually I know my husband talked on the other, a similar podcast about mentorship, but through mentorship, I was recommended, hey, you need to start thinking about reading these kind of different books, and more non-fictional books that are more focused about how I can change myself. And so it's just kind of like the journey went from there onwards. Well, how I go about reading and how picking certain books was definitely, well, with the help of mentorship, it kind of just helped. They kind of suggested a few things here and there that I need to improve on. So I would kind of align myself with that. Or I noticed areas in my life that maybe I wasn't improving well on, or like, let's say at work, usually you'll have a yearly review and they may give you some pointers on things that you may need to improve in yourself throughout the workplace and so on and so forth. And I start, instead of picking the books that, oh, I think I'm gonna like, I pick the books thinking, oh, I need to work in this area. So it's almost kind of, it's like a fun homework because I want to improve myself in that sort of sense. And how I kind of went about, changing and wanting to do it. Let's be honest, like sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but I know the action of doing it is going to ultimately help me. So I make it a point that I fit it into a daily basis for me. And when you fit something in so repetitively in your life, it becomes an actionable step that you just naturally take on a daily basis. I'll either read right in the morning when I get up or just before I go to bed. And through that process, I journal a lot. So I'll pick key points throughout specific chapters that I need to work on myself. And I make a conscious effort daily to work on these things.
So that's really neat. Like, so basically, like the necessity overcame the unwillingness or the fear of getting into it. So like you just threw yourself in the water. You're like, okay, I need this skill set. I don't care how I feel about this. this is actually going to help me in the areas I'm hurting the most. So you pick your books upon that. So I imagine you do like a Google search, or you ask your mentor, like, hey, how do you think I can overcome this particular thing with what book? What's your process for actually like finding that particular book before we get into your process for dissecting it?
A lot of them have been just recommendations that they've read themselves.
Yeah.
So just kind of knowing someone who's already been there, that done that. But if you don't know anyone who's kind of read those kind of books, yeah, just kind of like Google is searching it, and I always kind of pick like key people that have many different types of similar books written, just because like there's maybe the one namer or two namer kind of books, and they may be great, but kind of if they're in the process of writing all these kind of books very similar, they're pretty good. Just like one of my favorite ones is John Maxwell. He writes a lot of like key books. They're very detailed and very in depth, so you're able to get a lot of content from the read.
Super cool. All right, so we got that down. We found out how to get, basically like why you get a book is to fix areas in which actively at that time you need improvement. So you imagine you have an increase of engagement, you find that book, and then now you're in the zone. Boom, you're reading in the mornings, you're reading at nights, you're focusing on self-improvement. I've done stuff like that, and again, I find I'm just not journaling it properly or making it like an actionable step throughout my day where I'm applying the things I learn. What does your journal look like, maybe, or your framework for dissecting that book, if you'd be open to sharing it?
Um, I well, a big thing is accountability. So I actually send my personal journal to my mentors on a daily basis, just so they see how I'm improving and adjusting. But what I do is, let's say there's like a key point in this paragraph or in this chapter, and I write it down. But with that, I also talk about how maybe this can be applied in my life. Like, how can I actually work about applying that key component, or what can I do so that it can be more of a conscious effort in the future or the next day to really work on that skill set. So that's kind of how I break it down a little bit.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's super simple, right? So you read something, you seem like the main takeaways, and then you try and apply it. So I'm intrigued now because I'm wondering, do you have like a set amount you're going to read so you know like the gist before you start writing down the keys and applying them? Like, what's that process like between finding a key takeaway of a particular segment of a book and then like actually applying it and making it a behavior or like something that you do instinctually over time?
Um, well, I typically give myself at least a half an hour a day to reading. It's just kind of like, brushing your teeth and doing everything else. It's just like in my schedule. It's in my time block. And to what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Oh, basically the second part of the question was like, how do you segment it? Like, and you should basically explained it greatly. Like, okay, like so it's pretty straightforward. 30 pages a day, right? Keeps the doctor away. No, I'm joking. But and then you my curiosity was, so like, what's your process for applying that tip? Let's say you find something insightful that can improve your life. You write it in your journal. You share it with your mentor, and she's like, or he is like, yeah, this is great. Do you apply it the very next day and write it in the morning like, hey, this is the thing I'm working on for the day or for the week? Is it maybe like an ad hoc thing? Like, maybe you don't have a process for it. I was just wondering like the minutia of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I'll look back at what I've written down and kind of re-glance at maybe something I learned in previous days or previous weeks or anything like that. And I'm constantly going over my journal. So I'm rereading everything. So maybe like there's something I was working on, but I seem to like just getting away from it over time. I can like re-look at it and be like, hey, I need this in my life again. So kind of re-going back through your notes is really important, especially if it really didn't become a conscious thing that you're working on at that very moment. So I'll go back and do that. Or another thing is I consistently reread the books. That's a big takeaway for me because they say about when you first read a book, you're getting maybe 10% of the information within the book is actually sticking. So when you're rereading it, you end up discovering more about the book that you need. Or maybe you pick up the book again a couple years later and you're in a completely different point in your life, that there's something in the book that you didn't think that you needed to improve on, but now because you picked it up a couple years later, oh, now you need it in your life. So it just kind of rereading the same books has really been helpful in grabbing more information too.
It's really interesting you say that. Dale Carnegie, you know, he has that book, like How to Influence People, essentially, and Win Friends. Or I forgot the title. I'll put it in the little thing below in the description. But
Yeah.
he said how he suggests to read that book is you read a chapter, and then you go back, and then you highlight it, and then you write notes. But there's like a 3-step process. Oh, you have the book there. Can you show it? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. How to win friends and influence people. So I have the same book, and in the intro, he basically gives you an idea of how to read books, and essentially however you want to do it, you do it. You can read the whole thing, and then go back and highlight everything, and then write your own little notes, or go through it and at a high level, look at the main segments and the subtitles and etc. So there's many ways you can dissect a book. Have you noticed, like, when did you start doing that? And what are some things you maybe an example of a time you've learned something different that you didn't the first time of reading a book? I'd love to hear that story.
Actually, it really started after college because through my mentors, they really encouraged me to start picking up these books, which I'm very blessed that they did so, because it's really helped me in many areas of my life. But a good example of something that I've been working on a lot. Before I was a very shy person, kind of very introverted into myself. I wasn't open and communicating with people. So my relationships were very surface level. So I needed to kind of work on people skill books, kind of really how to build a relationship and have a great relationship, not just have, a relationship just talking about pizza and sports. I don't know. But more deeper communication level, because communication for me was like non-existent. Now I've been improving on that for over the past several years. Because of that, I've really grown tremendously in my job. I have to work with a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of different entities, and to be able to communicate effectively and work with so many different kinds of people and different types of personalities. A big thing I read was Personality Plus. It really helps you dive into different people's personalities and how you can communicate in a way that is bringing like the best out of them. And another one that a story. So I've been thinking more in of like your subconscious mind sort of reading.
Cool.
And there's a really big power to it. I never really thought that there was. I was like, no, this is BS. Like, this isn't a thing. But when I started to read it, and it talks about how you can really program your subconscious mind to pretty much do anything that you really say it's going to do. So I learned a lot of great tips in that, and I applied it when I was running. So I was a big avid runner. I would run marathons and stuff like that. And I was like, for this one race, I wanted to use it as an experiment. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this as an experiment during my race. And at the beginning of the race, I just envisioned myself crossing the finish line at a specific time. And I just kept that in the forefront of my head it was a 10-mile race. So the entire 10 miles, I just kept that exact time in my head. Now, I've only ran this race once before, and it was not even anywhere close to that time frame that I had visioned in my head. But during the entire race, I just kept that in the forefront of my head. And it was a soldier field race. So the finish line, you come out of like the underpass of the football field and you run, and it's on the 50-yard line. So it's pretty cool. But as you're coming through the tunnel, I look and I'm within like 10 seconds of that time I pictured. And it was just a crazy out of the body experience because I'm like, I was just thinking about this time for 10 miles. There was no, like, everything, and like I could have stumbled, my shoelace could have untied, you know, maybe I took an extra step to drink water, or I don't know, something would have happened and maybe I wouldn't have gotten that time. But because I kept that in the forefront of my head, like my body or something, everything just kind of lined in place so I could actually achieve that time. So that was a pretty surreal experience. So from then on out, I've really made a conscious effort. Whatever I speak into the universe, you could reap. So if you say like, "Oh, I'm not good at reading," well, now you just told yourself that you're not good at reading. Or, "Oh, I'm not good at this." Now you're speaking that. So I've made a conscious effort to always speak positively and speak into what I want into existence, because your subconscious mind is always going to find that solution for that.
That's some impactful stuff, and it's funny. I felt a similar way. I don't know how I fell on visualization and affirmations. I think it was on fluke on YouTube, and I was having like crippling anxiety in my shoulders for a while. I didn't really know I was. You get used to anxiety actually, and these feelings become normal, right? And then one day I saw this guy, Jason Stevenson, on YouTube, and he was like, you know, my anxiety is leaving me, but they're more pragmatic. Like it wasn't like I'm gonna fly away and become a butterfly, but they're practical. They're just things I don't say to myself, right? So I laid on my bed and I just said these things, and it was like in 2 days I felt like amazing. And for 7 days, 10 minutes in the morning, I laid on my bed, closed my eyes, and I made it a mindful practice. When he would say the first affirmation, I would breathe, and then he would say it a second time, and I would say it with him in my head and exhale, and then I would say it again in my mind. Anyways, in 7 days, the point of the story is that simple kind of closing my eyes and using my subconscious mind was like my anxiety was gone. And it's crazy because till that point, I didn't really know I was living with all that. It was like, wow, I've been bearing that weight. So the real point of that story is whether you're a skeptic or not, you can actually perform these things skeptically, as you heard Jessica saying. And me, I was like, this is a bunch of hooey, but I'm gonna try it, and it'll work. It over time, slowly, you'll experience some results. Um, so just getting back to like you looking at the book, I just really want to dig into this a little deeper because I think it's really cool that you're able to grab a book, find the things in it, particularly and applied it to your life. Is there any like examples of like how like a workflow or a process of that? So you read your 30 pages, you find something insightful, for example, you read it in your book. Like the next day, do you go out with the intention of solving that problem, or do you sometimes let your subconscious mind just become aware of that tip?
I think you always have to be conscious about it. And they say, you know, a habit is formed if you perform it 21 days in a row, or 21 to 28 days in a row. So I just make it a conscious effort to always reflect on it and apply it. And sometimes, like, I used to read an entire book and not journal at all, but I wouldn't really remember what I read. And the journaling aspect of it has really helped me because I'm able to just put it down to paper or within the book, whatever your preference is, and really just kind of make it a conscious effort to actually apply it in your life if you really, really want to work on it.
I like that because it's very like tailored custom solution to that problem of like, well, how do I do it? It's kind of like you'll figure it out, but make sure you're writing it down and see like, is this a big thing that you should be practicing for the next 2, 3 weeks? Is this something minor that you can just put a reminder on your calendar when you got to manage or deal with different people? So I mean, that's really cool. I haven't heard many people talk about reading in that way. I mean, I'm sure the smartest people do that, but to people that don't read, it's just like you're discouraged from reading because you're like, what am I getting away from it? So I mean, I'm kind of curious too. Is there any particular authors you'd recommend to people and other books? Maybe not, but is there anything in particular that like is someone who was an introvert and struggled with various things? Is there anything in particular that you can recommend people?
Um, Good one is, sorry, I got some books here.
Yeah, dude, pull them up.
What to say when you talk to yourself. I think that just goes on the whole. Really just using what you say to yourself to really push yourself into the right direction. Because if like you say to yourself like, oh, like, oh, I'm not going to get this job offer. Oh, I don't know how this interview is going to go. Now you're just kind of like speaking it, and you may not perform to your best abilities because of that. Another one I think is really important is Start With Why. That's a really good book. It talks about why you really have to think everything through the why question. And I think that's such underutilized because we're all about like the what, the how, but you really have to take it in the whole why perspective. And a lot of business owners do this. They think like the longevity, the why they're doing something, why they're going this route, why they're going to do this and that. And just like in life, you kind of need to know why you're doing something and what you ultimately want through it. Authors, I like John Maxwell. He's really good at, there's so many different kinds of books on leadership, mindset. I have just grabbing a few. Developing the leader within you.
Cool.
And
I
then
like the cover of that one.
No Limits. That's another good one. And then, yeah, Chad Helmstetter. He's a great author. Yeah, I think those are some of the key ones that I personally stick towards that I enjoy.
I appreciate you for sharing that. It's just good to know where to start, right? For some people that maybe really inspired them, they can just like, let me grab that book. Oh, and before we head out, I actually wanted to share this with you that I found interesting. So I heard from a gentleman named Om Swami, right? He basically he was a serial millionaire, and then left it all to become a monk and meditate excessively. Now he's like 15,000 hours of meditation, and his specialty is meditation. So often he talks about the benefits of mindfulness through his experience and science. And what he said about reading is really interesting because he basically said reading gives you a similar benefit as mindfulness or meditation, right? It's like almost like a meditation in itself. And I thought about it. People say mindful reading really is just reading, but not skipping the words, right? It's just read like you're engaged in the book. And apparently that act alone is like a meditation. So for people who are like meditation's boring, I don't like sitting in one spot. These are very fair things to say. Meditation isn't for everybody. You can live a fruitful life by doing many other things than meditation. But to learn, reading is not a passive thing, it's an engaging thing. So while TV is a passive thing, it's difficult to meditate on TV the same way you would read a book and meditate and digest that information. So I'd like to say anybody that is skeptical about meditating or doesn't want to do it, reading will give you similar benefits and you gain intellect, knowledge, and you can become as epic and cool and as successful as Jessica.
You hit it right on the head because I was one of those skeptics for sure until I really started to apply things in my life, and it really is. It's so surreal. It's kind of gives you goosebumps through the whole process of it. Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I think we'll end there. That's a lot of information, and I want people to be able to digest it. Again, everybody, I'll break this down in simple ways. You can either listen to it or read a blog post or download a worksheet, and you'll be able to work through all this stuff regardless of how busy or how much time you have. Jessica, I just want to thank you. You and Nick are awesome, and I look forward to maybe having you again one day.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Chat soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking our episode with Jessica Benson, all about how to make reading more effective in syncing your mind, but also make it more fun. We have all our tips and actionable takeaways and worksheets so you can apply this stuff, screensavers for your phone to keep you more mindful, even timestamps to jump to your favorite part on our website. And now that you can now work this stuff, right, and read more effectively, remember we went from overcoming instant gratification to making life more fun in general to building discipline and cultivating why, on to Jessica's episode on building wisdom and knowledge through reading and making that more fun. We have a nice gentleman named Chris Haskell who has great experience overcoming his own challenges and a very forward personality. He loves going after what he wants, but he has a great perspective after mentoring many people on how to go after what they want. Not all of us can just go into a gym and start making friends. Not all of us just go see a girl on the street or a boy on the street and just talk to him. But he has a way you can go after what you want in an actionable way while taking it slow and gradually cultivating that resolve and will. So I look forward to checking you out on our next episode with Chris Haskell. Thank you for joining us with Jessica Benson, all about how to make reading more fun. I look forward to sharing my journey with you guys once again and catch you soon. Ciao.